once again, my name is Kirsten Razanzoff, and I am going to show you today, do a little walkthrough of the school growth plan tool on BetterEducate. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch, and hopefully I'll cover everything you need to know so you can get started with your school plan in BetterEducate. Okay, so here we are at the dashboard. I've logged into my BetterEducate account. I've come to the dashboard here, and we're going to go to Plans. Once we get into plans, you'll remember this is where you get into your personal or your professional growth plan. But right now we're going to go to the blue side and we're going to choose our school plans. There are 3 parts to the school plans menu here. This is where you actually fill out your plan. Again, the blue. Stick with the blue if you're just going to put in a plan. Green is creating your own version of the plan, which I'll talk about a bit later. And then this red area down here is anyone who's shared their plan with you. So if you have a read-only access to other people's plans in BetterEducate, for example, I may have shared a plan with you. If you've been to one of my presentations before, I'm happy to share my plan so people can have a look through it. So shared school plans, you might not show up on yours unless someone's shared their plan with you. So if you don't have that, don't worry. It just means you haven't had anyone share with you at this point. So we're going to start with getting into the actual make a plan first, fill out a plan, and then we'll look at those other sections after. So we're going to click on school plans. As you can see, when we arrive here, we see the Christina Lake Elementary School school plan 2020 and 2021, which I actually created just yesterday to get going. And the whole plan is here. If you have not created a plan, nothing will be here yet. And then you will need to start a new plan. So what I'm going to do first is I'm actually just going to, if you've had more than one plan, this is where they show up. So I'm going to go to our 2019-2020 plan and then just show you through it first before I teach you how to make your own. So we use the 6-step version of the school plan. You get to choose different versions. You can make your own version if you want. This is the one that we use. It's based on the spirals of inquiry. You can see steps 2 to 5 are the spiral: scanning, focusing. We combined the learning and action sections because for me that's just a spiral within the spiral, right? You learn something, you try something, you're like, ooh, I better go look that up or find a different way to do this, and then you do some more learning. So we just combined those, and then checking. And then you've just got the additional steps of adding your general school story. So who are you as a school? Kind of an introduction to who you are, which is really handy when you're sharing your plan with other people who aren't in your school community because they might not be familiar with who you are and where you are. And then how are we going to share this information, I think is a nice addition as well in terms of how you get your plan out there and how do people know what your plan is. So under each section, each step of your plan, you've got questions, and then you've just got boxes where you can type in your answers. What are the unique positive characteristics of our school? And you can see you have the opportunity to add files in here. And I'm actually going to add right now this video that we just made during our, there's our principal, Sean Lockhart. We made a video with our students about who we are during this emergency remote learning. So I'm going to copy this link right here, and then we're going to go add file. And right in here, you can see I could add something from my computer, or I can add a link, which is what I'm going to do, or I can select one of the resources that I have in BetterEducate. So we're going to save those changes. And so that's where you can add all your examples. Now there are steps to the plan where you might not need to put in any evidence or any examples, but for lots of the steps, it's really nice. It's a lot richer to talk about who you are as a school, what are the unique positive characteristics through photos. I mean, I doubt anyone actually reads this part. They just look at the pictures. Here's who we are. So now you can see where I've just added that. We can click and open it. I can delete it if I decide, oh yeah, I don't actually want to do that. And then if we click on here, it should open up hopefully to, yes it does, our little video. So I'm going to keep those changes, and I can add notes in there as well about it to give a little description, and I'll show you why you might want to do that later. What are the important demographics of our school and community? So we've got some links just right in the text here as well to our page and some local Christina Lake stuff. What are the things that we celebrate? Again, we've got lots of photos in here about the things that we celebrate. You can even just read the titles and then you know. And then at the end of every step, there is, just like in the professional growth plan, there's a place for notes and a completion date. We don't use the completion dates usually, but I will show you someone else's plan who does later on, which is kind of cool. You get these very satisfying check marks. But we kind of just leave ours like it's a it's a living document. We're always adding to it. We're always changing it. So our step 2 is where we get into our scanning. What do we actually know about the students that we're working with? What are the strengths and stretches? In here, there's lots of space for anecdotal comments, and then also you can add files. So what evidence do we have of the strengths and stretches? We've got lots of stuff down here. And while we're here, I'm actually making some additions. So I'm going to add a couple of files here. And then, oh, actually, you know what? I don't want to add them here because this was our beginning of the year scanning, and that's where we'd put our notes. Okay. And then what are our goals? So we get very specific in here about what are the areas we're going to focus on. What are our specific goals? And you can see we haven't added any files here because this is just what are our goals. You might have files that you want to add. You might even not write anything in here, and you might add a file that's actually a picture of the or upload the staff meeting minutes where you actually created your goals. So you don't have to use the text boxes if you don't want to. It's totally your plan, and no one sees it until you share it with them. So that's kind of comforting as well. What will teachers learn more about to support our goals? So this is where we got into what are the things we're actually going to learn, what resources are we going to use, then what are we going to do, what are our actions. This section, of course, is pretty big, and we probably could add more stuff to that. So we've got, again, photos. We've got some school-wide activities that we did. There's some kids working on sorting something. I can't remember what. And then our students actually made this growth plan newsletter in October as well. So this is a nice place where we can add more evidence of those things, steps that we're actually taking. And then how will we know we're making a difference? So what's the evidence? What are we going to collect evidence-wise? And then we can actually put that evidence right in here, which is what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to click here, and that'll open up this box of my computer. I just downloaded these, so I'm going to go to downloads, and I'm just going to put our MDI, our most recent MDI results on. And I have to do them separately, so we'll do one here. And did anybody read? Oh, good, the title shows up. So that's MDI grade 7 2020. We can make some notes there, and we can save the changes and put that in there. And then we're going to add our MDI grade 4. You can also, like in, sorry, can't type and talk at the same time. So further up, you'll see, so now you can see where those are. So that's our end of year, that's our MDI from this year. But if we go up to what do we know about our learners, if we look in their strengths and stretches, oh no, that's our social skills. I thought we had MDI stuff in here, but you can just screenshot certain aspects of the MDI even. I started doing that today. I was looking through the MDI results and I was screenshotting the relevant sections, but so much of it ties into our growth plan that I ended up just putting the whole thing in, as you can see. So that's how we know we're making a difference. That's our checking. How are things going throughout the year? And there is, as you see, there's space for anecdotal as well, which I really like, because that's evidence is always a tricky part of the growth planning process, right? It's tricky to capture those moments that you feel like you see every day with students where they're, if your growth plan, ours is around a lot about social emotional learning. And so, to catch kids being strong leaders doesn't show up on a graph necessarily. So it's nice in here that you can add photos and videos and anecdotal evidence. And then how will we share this plan with everyone? So what are we going to do about sharing with staff? What are we going to do to share our goals with students? And how are we going to share our progress with parents? So that's where we get into our newsletter. We had students make some videos. And just while we're in our plan, I wanted to show you our plan is mostly built from this practice that we use right here. So our teachers at the beginning of every year sit down with their class list and we write a strength and the greatest need for each student in the school, which I know we have a small school. We have about 90 students, but you could do this in a bigger school because it's only one teacher and one class. So they write down what are their strengths, and then what are their greatest needs to success. We used to call this the magic wand strategy. If you had a magic wand and you could give your student one thing to help them be successful, what would that be? And then we just look for themes. So our growth plan is based around these themes, which come from what does every student in our school need in order to be successful that we can actually give them. I mean, obviously, some of them could use a different home situation and that kind of thing. But what are the things we have control over that we can give them? And that's where our plan comes from, more so than any other numbers data, is that process. Okay, that's a side note. So that's what our plan looks like. Okay, so when you want to create your plan, you're going to come up here. So again, this won't show when you go into yours for the first time. So we're going to go new school plan. And then you have these options of which version you want to use. So you can use a direct spirals of inquiry framework. There is one that comes obviously from one of our French language schools. We've got a 10-step BCPVPA, the 6-step, which is what you just saw. That's the one that we're using at our school. And then it looks like some other schools and districts have created their own templates, which is what I'm going to show you later in that other option back in the menu. So you can choose your plan, you give it a label. You can see I'd like to do a bunch of test things, give it the year that it is, and then you're going to click next, and it'll just show up. Once you do that, it'll be right at your screen like this, but it will be empty. Once you've got one and you're happy with it, which is what we have, for next year, which is what I've already done, I can just click copy. I can use this exact same plan, give a label to a new plan, and then everything that I've done here is copied to next year. In fact, this already is our 2020, 2021. So all of that stuff I showed you in the previous plan, it's still in here because a lot of aspects of your plan don't change that much from year to year. I feel like in our school, we're sort of in this like 3 or 4 year cycle of exploring mindfulness and self-regulation, and that continues. So a lot of these things are similar still, and then we can just go through and delete the things from last year and add new things from this year. So we're going to go back to our current plan. I don't know if it counts as current actually, since it's actually July today, but so that was copy. So that's once you've got a good plan that you enjoyed for a year that you want to use again, you might want to use copy instead of starting from scratch, which is if you use this button. Then we can look at printing the plan if you want to. And you'll see when the preview comes up here, it doesn't lend itself well to printing. Because this is a living document, it's not supposed to be in a binder behind your desk. That's not what this kind of plan is. We've hopefully moved on from that. So you can see every box is open. So step 1, here's our story. There's the first question. There's that box we filled out. And of course we're printing, so the links are not going to be live. You can't click open the pictures. You're just going to see the tiny little thumbnail. Here's that link I just added to that We Are CLES video. And there's the whole thing. There's that one link I opened to show you. So you can see in terms of printing it's not beautiful, but you can share it so that it looks like this. And I'll show you how to do that in a moment here. So that was print. So now if we go to share, you can share. I'm currently sharing this plan with all these folks on BetterEducate. Okay, so if you wanted to share it with someone on BetterEducate, let's say I want to share with Sheena Sutherland, who's one of our staff members. I'm going to click this. I'm going to click share. This will be a read-only version. Okay, so they're just going to be able to look at your plan and make comments on your plan. So this is a good way to share with, like we share with our district admin here, Anna Lotard and Ken Minette, so that they can look at it this way instead of have to see it printed out, kind of, tiny little thumbnails of our pictures, etc. Or you can share with non-members like parents by using this link. So if you copy and paste this link onto your website, everyone visiting your website will get to see this version of your plan. And this looks, I think, super slick. So you can see every section is open. There's our school story, who we are, what are our unique characteristics. Here's this. The links are live, so now we can actually click on that and see this school with an outdoor classroom video. We can click through the pictures. So once they're open, you can go next and next etc., to see all the pictures. There's that link I just added there. So again, we'll be able to click on that and go have a look at that video we added. So there's that. Again, you can make them all bigger and look at them just like you're on the site, but you aren't actually signed into BetterEducate. So this is a good way to share with folks who are not on BetterEducate. Here's those 2 MDI documents that I just added. And down here we've got our how we're going to share the plan. So that can go right on your website, and that's using, we're going to go to share, and then you scroll to the bottom. You won't have this big list, and then you use that link right there, and that's for sharing outside the platform. So there's print versus share, right? Then what you can also do is you can add contributors. So when we first started using our plans, and we have a plan dating back to 2018, this wasn't an option yet. So I was the owner of our school plan, and I could share it for read only, but no one else could put evidence in. So when the staff saw something happening in their room that looked like, oh, that's evidence of our growth plan, they take a picture, they have to send it to me, and I have to put it in. Now that's no longer the case. So on our plan, under contributor, these are people who can edit the plan. They can make whatever changes they want. So Sean Lockhart is also an editor on our plan, and I can add other staff as long as they're in BetterEducate. Again, I'll just use Sheena because she's easy to find normally. There we go. So I can choose Sheena. I can add contributor. She'll get a little notification asking if she wants to contribute to this, be an editor, and hopefully she'll say yes. And then she's able to make any changes she wants to the plan. So that's contributors. So you might have if you have a team on your staff that are, your growth planning team, they might all want to be contributors so that they all have access to editing this document and sharing it with people and all of those things. You can also delete your plan here if you wanted to delete the whole thing. I'm going to be very careful not to click that button. It'll be very stressful today. And I don't have one to delete. I used to have an example in there I already deleted. So that's how you can actually create your plan in BetterEducate. So again, we came to plans, school plans again, fill out your plan. My plan pops right up, my most recent plan pops right up right away, but you would need to use the new school plan button. Okay, choose which one of these versions you want to use, give it a label, and then you'll be ready to get started. So we're going to go back to the school planning menu and talk about those versions now. So if we go in here on the green side, you can create your own version. So you can start with one of these templates and make changes to it, or you can start a new version completely from scratch. So we're going to call this example plan version. Perfect. You can give it a description. So this might be if your school district has specific questions or a specific format that they want you to use for your growth planning. You could still create that within BetterEducate by using this plan versions tool. So we're going to go start a new version from scratch. Example plan version, we're going to go next. None of this is live or available to other people until I click, I think it's activate. Yeah, until we do this activate thing. So luckily everything we do is not going to be seen by anyone. So again, you can copy a version you've already made to get started on making your new one. You can add editors if you have more than one person that you want to be able to make changes to what your version looks like until it's done, and then you can delete your version here. So here's our first step. So let's say our first step is going to be something like, let's stick with the spirals of inquiry just because that's the process I'm familiar with. So we could say, what is going on for learners? Or we could even just call it scanning. Let's be really straightforward here. Scanning. Okay, we can add a note to that if we want to. That'll just show up in brackets. Maybe that's where we'll put our what's going on for learners. And then we're going to save. And then it drops down and we can add those different questions. Now maybe that is our whole question, what's going on for learners. We can also add instructions or notes. So we can say something like, add documents about student learning, or we could use the cuss word data, add data about student learning here. Okay, and then that note will always be there reminding people that that's where we put it. We can put in our question, let's go strengths first. What are the strengths of our learners? We're going to save that. Okay, and then we can decide if we want to include file uploads. Probably for talking about the strengths of your learners, you do want to have file uploads in there. You're going to want to add some evidence. But if it's a question like what are our goals, maybe you don't want to be able to include files, so then you can unclick that button if you want. Then we're going to add another question. What are the stretches of our learners? Again, we're going to save. We're going to leave it to include file uploads. And then maybe that's all the questions I want there, so I'm not going to add any more. I'm going to add another step. So we did our scanning, and then we're going to go, oh, now it's like a test of the spiral of inquiry. Is it developing a hunch? I think that's what it is. Add a note, we save that, it opens up, it gives us the questions, etc., until you have all the steps you want. You can always go in and edit the questions later, and then that's your version. So then when I click activate it, this is a scary moment. It's going to say, are you sure? And I'm going to say, definitely don't activate it because I don't want other people to be able to see this ridiculous little 2-question thing that we created. So I'm going to click cancel. If you did click activate it though, that's when you would be able to go back into plans. And when you come here to your school plan to fill it out and you click new school plan, then you would see your version in here. So you can see Campbell Rivers created their template for their district using that green side of things, and now it's just an option for all people. Any of us can use the Campbell River one if we want to. And you can open it and have a look at it, and then you can just delete the plan if you want to as well. So I'm going to delete our practice version, which should still show up in here. So we haven't activated it. That example version didn't show up in the list, thank goodness. So for now, we're going to just click this delete version button because we definitely don't need that. Nobody needs that. And now it's asking me again, okay, so you want to make a new version. So yours might be School District 51 template, and then what you're going to put in there. So that was creating your own plan versus choosing from plans that are already created, okay? And now, if we go into shared school plans, this is where, when I'm in the blue, and I click on share, and whoops, sorry, that's my old plan. I don't have anybody, I haven't shared that, or that's my new plan, I haven't shared that yet. So I share with all these people. So say when Bob Chapman comes into his BetterEducate school planning area, if he clicks on shared plans, he's going to see my plan under here. So he can look at it and comment, but he can't add. So you can see I have got BCSS, Bo McFarland's plan from 2018-2020. It's one of the first things that shows up. He actually uses the completion date. So look at all those satisfying check marks. I'm really jealous, Bo, and I wish that we would use those. Maybe we'll start. So Bo uses the same 6-step plan that we use, the BCPVPA draft 6-step, I think it's called. So you can see here's all his evidence, all of his stuff, and then you can see there's some comments happening here too. Okay, so if you are viewing, I can also comment. So let's say I wanted to say something about his step 2. I can be like, oh, Bo, it's really interesting to notice that you're, whatever. Okay, and you can see here it shows that there are some comments on this one already. So I'm just going to show you, I have Kendra Simonetto uses the 10 steps. So I'm going to show you what those 10 steps are. She's in Langley. And I have a very old plan of hers. I think this one's from 2018 as well. Yeah, 2018 from James Hill Elementary. So she has used the completion date for a couple of hers, but not all of them. So she's got school context, similar to the 6-step. Starts with a description of the school. And then her other steps are the vision, who is the team. If you're in a bigger school, I guess you probably have to have a team rather than our tiny school where everyone's on every team. Community, how are you engaging community? Measuring, what are you going to measure your goals with? What are you going to do around student learning, professional learning, environmental design, financial sustainability, and supervisor feedback. So that is what the 10-step plan looks like if you wanted to choose that when you go to school plans. So again, we've got, here's where you fill out a plan based on any of the templates that already exist. 6-step, 10-step, Campbell River, spirals, all kinds of things happening there. Here's the school plan editor if you want to make your own version. And then here's where your shared plans will show up. Okay, and again, we get to all of that by going from the dashboard to plans and then school plans. And that takes us to that dashboard. So if you want to get it, if you have any questions, if you run into anything that you can't figure out and watching this video doesn't answer your question, you can always send me a message using the chat feature, Kirsten Razanzoff, and I'm happy to help around school growth planning. There's also whoops, meant to go to the resources. There's also, I've just added a resource now called BetterEducate Basics, and the video will be in here. It hasn't been added yet. Those are the other two videos. But right here, there's also this school growth plan module. This is PDFs of a bunch of slides that show you walk you through this process as well. So you might find answers in there too. And otherwise, reach out, ask a question. Sean Lockhart is really the guru, so when you ask me a question, I often have to go and ask him, so you can ask him directly. And otherwise, happy planning. It's a great tool. It's a living document. It's so excellent for adding that evidence of learning part, because you can do the photos and the videos and jot down your anecdotal notes. I feel like it's really transformed our planning process at Christina Lake, because it's alive. It's not a dusty binder on the shelf somewhere. But you can print the plan if you're still required to do a dusty binder on a shelf somewhere. So that is the school growth plan module in BetterEducate. Happy planning.